Hi, everyone. It's Nina Collins here today at the Woolfer with Catherine Balsam-Schwaber. Do you go by Kathy or Catherine?
Catherine.
Okay, Catherine. Catherine is CEO and I believe co-founder of Kindra, and you can see in the background, Catherine, maybe you can show us a couple Kindra products
Oh,
because mine
yes. Oh,
are
wow.
actually upstairs.
Yes, I have it all set up. So, yeah, our products are a line of menopause essentials, with our number one product being the vaginal lotion, that we love, that comes with this handy dandy applicator that is very important.
We're going
Um,
to talk about that applicator because I have some
Yes, we
thoughts about that.
definitely have to talk about that applicator. But then we also have supplements that help with hot flashes and mood balance and brain fog, at sleep and energy. So, tackling all the big aspects of the challenges we face in this transition in
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're doing kind of a founder feature interview. There are, as you know, Catherine, and as our audience knows, suddenly a lot of products tackling menopause. And in fact, I just posted an article where you guys are quoted or referred to. There was an article today in Vox saying,
Yeah.
we have to stop the shame of menopause. And we in the Wolfer community have been talking about this for like 6 years. This is kind of why I started the community. I was 46 and I was like, what the
Yeah.
hell is happening to me? And let's talk about it, please. So I'm thrilled to see that all these products are coming along. And Sydney, my colleague, and I were saying the other day, it seems like there are kind of a few different camps. There are the telemed companies like Genève and Electra, who are prescribing hormones and helping people see doctors. And then there are companies like Kindra and State of, which Stacey London just took over, and a few others, obviously, that are kind of taking the non-hormonal approach. And so I'm interested to learn from you kind of why this approach, what's your background? I believe Kendra's owned by Procter and Gamble, right?
So P&G is our investor. We're not actually owned by Procter and Gamble, and they also worked on developing our first line of products.
Oh,
So, which is awesome because we know they come with 5 to 7 years of scientific backing and lots of consumer and product testing, which has been phenomenal, just in terms of being able to really lean into knowing that they work, which
yeah.
is
I
one
mean,
of the big, right,
I would
right.
imagine you can't ask for much better than backing from Procter and Gamble for
No, you
starting a new
can't.
line.
You
Yeah.
can't. You can't. So they are a phenomenal partner. We're really, really lucky to work with them. But yeah, so yeah, I think it is really interesting that these businesses have started appearing. I think that that's um, a new phenomenon, and also just femtech businesses in general, right? The fact that we're able to get investment for these businesses and a lot of these issues, which for years and years, no one has really wanted to invest in. I think because they're hard to talk about, right? They're so hard to talk about in our own lives. I think it's hard to even, it would have been hard to imagine going in front of investors asking for capital to be able to get some of these businesses off the ground, which that is clearly changing.
I think that's right. In some ways, I feel like it all started with Thinks. I remember in the early days of our community, which was originally called What Would Virginia Woolf Do? I remember a lot of excitement when the Thinks advertising started showing up on subways in New York. And it was
Yeah,
so revolutionary,
yeah,
really, to
totally.
have people talking about periods in a kind of hip, cool way.
Yeah.
And that still has not, I mean, I wouldn't say we're talking about menopause in a hip, cool way, maybe because we're old and we're not so hip anymore, but we are talking about it
Yeah,
finally, which is
yeah,
really great. Yeah. So how did this come about for you? What's your background? How did
yeah.
you start this?
So uh, I would say that Kindra and I kind of found each other in a way. I have worked in a lot of big media companies, but mainly have worked in jobs that somehow perfectly correlate with my life stage. So when I was in my 20s, I worked at MTV during the Hills era. And then in my 30s, I ran marketing at iVillage when it was owned by NBC Universal. And that was when I was trying to get pregnant and I had my twins while I was there, and it was amazing. And then we lived in New York for 20 years. I was there for 20 years. And then we came to Los Angeles, where I joined Mattel when my kids were little and perfect age for toy testing for Barbie and Hot Wheels. And that was amazing. And then I went back actually to NBC Universal for a while after that, and sort of got to this moment where I felt like I really wanted to do something that was important to me and important to kind of like the the ethos of what I cared about. And my first job out of college, actually, I worked in the Clinton White House on healthcare reform. And so access to healthcare had always been my personal passion. And I went out into the world and started having conversations with people. You know, I had worked in big companies all this time in office buildings and offices, and it was hard to imagine how I would move from that world into this startup world that I really didn't know that much about. And so in my conversations, I was introduced to the two guys who founded M13, which is a big fund out here in Los Angeles, Courtney and Carter Ream, at the same time that they were working with Procter and Gamble on starting what is essentially like a launch pad company around menopause, where P&G had their original, some of the product development work plus the seed capital that they were putting into the business. And M13 was helping to identify some of the talent coming into the business. And so I sort of walked into the middle of this incredible three-legged stool and started the business and built the team and, was off to the races. And so from especially as a like older first time founder, right, that it was an amazingly unique opportunity. And I think that, a lot of people talk about, what does it mean to be a CEO? What does it mean to be a founder? And so I often answer the question of like, if you think of your company as your baby, whether you gave birth to your baby or you adopted your baby, you love it exactly the
You're
same.
still its mother. That's
Exactly.
right.
And so, so that's how, I'm in love with Kindra, and the team that we have is absolutely amazing. And we've been on this incredible journey for just over a year. And it's really, it's remarkable, I think, also because of the incredible dearth of product and education in this category,
Yeah.
that we just, we hear from women over and over again, like, I've never had anything that helped to solve some of these problems like this does. And you really feel like, that you're helping people in addition to, bringing up,
On so many levels. I mean, the products, the conversation, the awareness. I mean, it just makes women feel so much less alone.
yeah,
I mean, some of your products, like your sleep product, which is great, has melatonin in it. Women can go get melatonin obviously someplace else, but I think having lines that are addressing this issue and coming out with support by companies like Procter and Gamble,
yeah.
and it really is making a huge difference. I completely agree. I also have to tell you, just your whole thing about your career was so interesting. And I have to Facebook friend you. How old are you, may I ask?
I'm 50.
All right, I'm 51, because I feel like we know a lot of people in common. I know Cindy from my village. I have a lot of friends who worked at MTV. I also have twins. I have a dear friend who was at the Clinton White House early on. So I think we probably know a lot of people in common, which is just fun. I'm not a corporate person. I've always been a startup person, but my background's in book publishing. So, all right. So my question about the applicator. So
Yeah.
in the Woolfer
Best part.
community, I've used your vaginal lotion and thought it was excellent.
Yeah.
I try out everything, and your other products, I don't need as much because I am on hormones. So I appreciate them and I'm super glad they exist. And I've read lots of reports about how great they are for people. I ended up having such debilitating hot flashes. I tried to stay off hormones for a while because my mom died of breast cancer young. But my hot flashes were like really killing me. And so now I'm on a low dose patch and progesterone. But I won't be on them forever. And then I will probably need to turn again to products like Kindra's, because I'm told that the sleep disturbance is something that happens forever, basically.
Yes. Yes. The sleep disturbance and the vaginal dryness.
And the vaginal dryness, they never go away.
They never go.
That's right. So I use coconut oil a lot for
Yeah.
vaginal dryness. I love it. And we're always, in the community, people are always like, well, how do you use it? And I'm like, you just take it and you stick it up like this. And so I'm curious how you guys decided on this applicator. And are you getting any like funny pushback from it? Like we got it and I was like, do you need it? So I didn't use it. I just used my fingers, but I guess it is a good idea for women who are probably shy. I mean, there are lots of women, as we know, who don't even know what their vaginas look like, and they probably do feel more cautious, and they're probably happy to have an applicator.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that the applicator is obviously a choice, right? You can just as easily use any of those products with
It's
your.
pretty. You could probably maybe almost use it as a vibrator.
Yes, you probably could, or for other kinds of activities, definitely. But I think so. It's designed because technically the pain receptors in your vagina are in your introitus, which is essentially like just above the opening of your vagina. So the idea that you necessarily need to insert anything all the way up into your vaginal canal is not technically necessary.
Yeah.
So the applicator is designed to put the moisture where you need it, like
where you really need it. And that's actually true. I mean, from my limited, the few times I've had vaginal pain during intercourse, it's right at the entrance.
That's exactly right. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that, but I mean, you can reach that place with your fingers. So it is really about a personal choice of like, are you more comfortable using an applicator?
Yeah.
And, because it's designed that way, it can't be inserted all the way up into your vagina. Right. It's designed specifically not to do that. So that you're really putting it in the right place, which is
actually a nice option. I mean, I feel like the more like hardcore feminist responses, like just stick it in there. But on the other hand, there are a lot of women who probably feel shy about that. And so it's actually really good that you offer it.
Yeah.
And what are your plans for Kindra going forward? Is the idea to expand the line? Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah. So, we really started with a focus on the top 4 most debilitating aspects of menopause, right? And sleep disruption, obviously, right? When you can't sleep, everything goes wrong. Fatigue, which includes brain fog and some mood imbalance stuff as well, hot flashes, and vaginal dryness. And so when we think about where we go next, it's really through listening to our customers and the places that they feel like, especially in those areas, that we can provide more help. Because, vaginal dryness is not a one size fits all. So even the lotion, part of the reason, like the lotion versus coconut oil, is that the lotion actually builds up the barrier in your skin and increases elasticity. So it's sort of like repairing in addition to making things more moist. So it has that
hyaluronic acid in it.
And niacinamide and things like that, so it functions in a lot of ways like your face cream would, right? Yes, exactly. And so I always say, like, why don't we treat our vaginas as well as we treat our faces? Because I think about all of the incredible moisture products I've been putting on my face for years and years and years, and like never once before this moment thought about using moisturizer on my vaginal skin, right? It just didn't occur to me. So that's, a big area of focus. And so when we think about like how we can support women in that part of their journey.
Here you are.
Okay, sorry.
No, for a sec. I'm glad you're here.
Okay. So for us, I think it's really about creating options for women when it comes to solving those problems too. And, and even when you think about hot flashes, the supplements work really, really well for a lot of women. But as, one of my favorite customers said to me, when I'm having a hot flash, I'm not going to reach for a supplement. So, right. So it's like, So how do we think about ways that we can support women and provide innovation in these categories? I mean, that's one of the things just in general, like from a mission-driven standpoint, there's been so little innovation when it comes to these,
Absolutely.
right, these challenges.
Absolutely.
And why, I mean, yeah.
You know what I love? I just want to suggest, so like Pause Well Aging makes a cooling
Yeah.
mist, and I think State of makes a cooling mist. And when I was having really bad hot flashes, I didn't find the cooling mist. I don't know. I didn't like them as much. Sometimes I do use like just an Evian thing and I would spray myself. But what I really love, have you ever used those jade rollers on your face?
Yes.
The rose quartz rollers?
Yeah.
I love those. And I love the way they're cooling
Yeah.
and are like kind of, hopefully doing something for my fascia.
Yeah.
So just a tip. I think that's a good idea. Women should just carry them around and do this. On
Yes,
their
yes. Well, because I think that's actually part of the, part of the challenge is like managing some of those things that are happening to your body like out in public
Yeah.
too, right? And so, a face like a mist is okay, but it's still like especially if you're having a hot flash, right? You're like sweating and then you're
Right. You
misting.
don't really want to add more water to
Right,
your face. That is
exactly.
sort
Yeah.
of, I
Yep.
agree.
Yes. So I love exploring also ways like cooling points on your body and
Mhm.
other ways that you can help calm yourself down. Because I do think, I mean, I've had hot flashes. And so part of it is like you start to get more anxious as it's happening, right?
Yeah.
So it's like both physical and mental.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we hear a lot about the women who take the supplements is that it helps actually minimize the anxiety about having a hot flash, which I think there's no data for this, but right, which I think also helps minimize the hot flash and that's where it all, like in my mind, this all comes back to education and
I
that.
think that's actually a really good point. I mean, I did an interview earlier in the week with Jen Gunter, the
Oh yeah.
gynecologist who's terrific. And she's a big kind of myth buster, right? So she's not taking any bullshit. She's like, lots of things don't work.
Right.
But she was talking, of course, about the placebo effect and how strong it is. Not that I'm saying your products work with the placebo effect, but I agree that knowing that you're educated about a subject, that you can talk about it, that you're doing something about it goes a long way in terms of kind of psychological kind of
Yeah.
serenity about dealing with it. So that's actually a really good point, I think.
Well, and I think in terms of education too, that we hear all the time from women, I feel like this snuck up on me, right? Like it was a surprise. And that directly speaks to education, which
Yeah.
is, we're so good. Think going back to thinks, we're pretty good about educating girls on puberty. We talk a lot amongst ourselves about what happens in pregnancy, at least, even if you aren't getting all the support you need, at least we sort of like, we're
No,
talking
and
about.
also during pregnancy, you're seeing a doctor every 2 or 3 weeks, and they're talking to you about
Right,
it. Like
exactly.
everyone acknowledges that it's a thing.
Right,
Menopause, it totally sneaks up on you. Like
right,
no one tells you.
right,
You go to the doctor, and they're like, "Huh."
right, right. Well, and so why wouldn't you just adapt I have a 10-year-old daughter, right? I actually have adapted my sexual education to include, and then at the end, right? And then when you get older, this starts to happen, and just know that it's out there. You don't have to worry about it right now, but know someday you're going to want to talk about it, right? You're going to want to be ready for it. And when we see women in our community, I mean, we see a lot of women coming into the community in their late 30s with starting to feel like
Oh
they
yeah,
have changes,
yeah.
right?
Which
And
is a
so
really good time to educate
yeah,
people.
exactly. And so it doesn't mean you have to be doing anything right then necessarily. It's more just like my hair's starting to change, my skin's starting to change. Guess what? That's your hormones.
Yeah, and it's normal. You don't have to, right.
Totally
And
normal.
being prepared. I mean, it's the whole kind of knowledge is power, and
Yeah.
preparation makes you feel saner and all of that. When you refer to your community, do you have a specific Kindra community? Is there a group on Facebook? How do you grow community?
Yeah, so we have a Facebook community, which is super robust and we love for a lot of reasons. I mean, obviously we, I think it's like community in the wild, right? We're not in there trying to be Kindra. We're just creating a place for women to connect with each other. But also we talk to the community about changes that we're making to the product or ideas or places where they feel like they're not getting enough education. So they're also a great resource and
That's
partner for
great.
us.
Yeah.
And then we really try in all of our communication to leverage stories of other women because, to the point of feeling like this is normal, right? There are a lot of women who are experiencing different levels of what you are going through as a woman in this phase of life. And so being able to share those stories with and among other women, that we just
Hugely
try to
valuable.
pull community into everything that we're doing. So you feel like I see myself in this. I see that this is normal. I mean, I do think that, the whole issue of vaginal dryness and painful sex, I mean, it's just so overwhelming in these conversations that we hear from women. And I think to myself, before before I was part of Kindra, I had never heard anyone talk about it, like ever.
Same, Catherine. So
Yeah.
I, again, was 46 when I started our community, and I started it because I wasn't sleeping. I had never heard of vaginal atrophy, painful sex until almost 2 years into running the community. And women started, because we create such an environment of a safe space to talk about difficult things, and women started talking about sex being too painful, and I was like, what? And I started doing all this research, and now I do think 6 years into it, I think it's one of the major things we've helped women with is,
Yeah.
it's something we talk about all the time so that
Yeah.
everyone understands how normal it is
Yeah.
and knows how to get treatment for it, because it's one of those things also that is so unbelievably debilitating and so treatable.
Yeah, right. Right. That's exactly right. I mean, it just feels like there are small and big things that you can do depending on, where your body is. And I think that it's just, again, like being able to take control of the situation and not feel like it's happening to you, but it is happening. And you have choices. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, actually when you started this, the whole, right, there's evolution in hormone therapy and there's evolution in non-hormone therapy. And I think that is actually the best thing for
Yeah,
everybody.
I agree, because there are a
Right,
lot of women who can't take hormones and don't
right.
want to for all sorts of completely understandable reasons.
Yeah.
Um, and now tell me, where is Kindra available? How can people find it?
It is available on our website. So we're completely direct to consumer right now. I mean, I think that will evolve over time, but it's been working extremely well for us. Also, we have this really great onboarding quiz that is custom. So it really helps you both get educated while you're taking it and like learning a bit more about all of the different aspects, or there are 34 symptoms of menopause, right? And so thinking about all of these things that could be happening in your body, and then we offer educational resources in response to that, and then if appropriate, products that match up with some of the challenges you're facing.
That's great. My favorite symptom of perimenopause and menopause is impending sense of doom.
Yes, it's funny. I had one of my good friends for years used to have something that she called dread.
Uh-huh.
And so when I started getting into this and reading about impending sense of doom, I was like, I wonder if, in retrospect, right, if she was maybe having hormonal shifts
Yeah,
early,
yeah,
and
yeah.
um, and I mean, I have that too. It's hard, but I feel like I've had it for like 20 years.
Your lifetime. It's pretty funny when you feel like you can justify having it. You can be like, yeah, I'm in
Yes.
perimenopause. It's
Yes.
just,
But I had a lot of like, my head heart fluttering, and I would call my mother and be like, I think I'm having an anxiety attack. My mother is a doctor. And she would say, I think you should maybe get your blood checked. Right. She would,
nice.
was very, I mean, she didn't come out and say, I think I think this is the beginning of your perimenopause journey. She would just say things like, I think you should get your blood checked.
See, and she didn't say that because she's a doctor in America and they
Right.
really haven't been trained to do that. And your
Right.
mother's old. So, it's
Right.
not fault. They just
Good.
really were not. I mean, I think that's something people like you and me and all of these companies who are doing this stuff, we're going to start to change the way doctors, like what doctors should do is
Yeah,
talk to women in their 30s about what's coming up, because then we
totally.
wouldn't be horrified when we have like things like sludgy periods or, all sorts of nasty things that happen. Well, this is great. I hope we covered all the topics. It's very exciting that you have this line. So everyone, it's called Kindra. And let's just go over one more time the 4 products. There's the vaginal lotion. There's
Yep,
a sleep supplement.
yep.
There is an energy
Yep.
supplement.
And
And
the core supplement, which is all of them help with mitigating hot flashes and some brain fog. And then the core supplement really hits home on the hot flashes and brain fog and mood balance. So,
oh, and the other thing we forgot to say that is really important with supplements that I learned when I was at the beginning of this is that you have to take them for at least 60 days generally to see an effect. Not the sleep one, but and not the vaginal lotion.
yes,
The
right.
other two, right? You have to really be consistent. You have to take them once a day and keep taking them before you judge whether they're effective or not.
Yeah, it's
Um,
true actually, because I candidly, prior to all of this, I was not a big supplement taker. And one of my many symptoms is I get really achy, like
I
really.
was having that at the beginning too. Yeah.
And so the I take the core supplement every day, and then sometimes I forget, like people do, and if I forget like a couple of days in a row, I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm not feeling great, and then I take it again, and
That's
but
great.
it takes like a week, at least a week or two
Yeah.
to back.
You have to really be consistent. I mean,
Yeah,
that's one of
exactly. Yeah,
the hard parts. Like if you take hormones, like they work, but if you
yeah.
don't take hormones, you really have to figure out what works for you and you have to really
Yeah.
be
Right. It's
serious
like
about
really
it.
building it into your routine is
Yeah. But I
important.
also, in the beginning of my perimenopause, I was so creaky. Like I would get up off the floor and like I was creaking, like literally, like an old chair.
That's how I still feel that way, even though I'm doing my best to like oil my joints from the inside out.
Yeah, it's that hydration, right? We're just getting
Yeah,
drier. Just
I
that's
know.
what's happening. Estrogen depletes and we get dry everywhere.
Yes.
Well, it's lovely, lovely to meet you. I hope we stay in touch and we will be, championing Kindra and telling everyone about it. We're really glad there are more products out there for women like us. So thank
So
you very
much.
much.